Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back into my channel. My name is Rebecca and I'm a 30-year-old mum in Australia, WA specifically, and I am a disabled woman, and I'm also raising my daughter who is also disabled. On this channel you're going to find content like budgeting and finances. I'm on Centrelink at the moment, so that's where my perspective is coming from. I also do videos on my disability journey and also motherhood, because that's just a whole other can of worms, isn't it? Especially from the lens, literally, of a disabled woman raising a disabled child, because I feel like there's not really much of us out there. But if you like what you see and want to stick around, feel free to. My goal this year is to hit 1,000 subs. That would be truly so wonderful. Also, just to genuinely reach more people, that would be great. So today I'm going to be discussing my experience of the fear of having sudden episodes. Now, for context, I have Meniere's disease. If you don't know what Meniere's disease is, it's basically an inner-ear disorder where you get a build-up of fluid, and that fluid, you know, it's an abnormal amount of fluid, because I think you are supposed to have fluid in your ears, but there's, in Meniere's disease, our fluid is overboard. It gets really, really bad. From that we get symptoms of vertigo, which is horrendous. I also personally experience pulsatile tinnitus and regular tinnitus. Some of us can also experience visual migraines. Yeah, it's just a really horrible disease, and I really want to just touch on that today and the fear of that, because I know a lot of us with Meniere's disease, I think, can relate to this video, because it is a really, really hard thing to come to terms with, and it's also really difficult to navigate. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the first thing I want to touch on is agoraphobia. Now, this term wasn't brought to my attention until literally 2 weeks ago maybe with my mum, because it is something that runs sort of in my family. Like, there's been a couple of family members that have developed this, and you know, she sort of said, like, over the last couple of years, like, I've noticed you don't go to any family events, you do anything to get out of it. Like, I think that you're developing it. And I'm like, you know what, that checks out. Just context if you don't know, agoraphobia is basically a huge fear of going outside of your home. Your home is like your safe space. You're just so scared, whether it's social anxiety or a mix, honestly, too. Whether it's social anxiety or a mix, it's just this overwhelming fear of just going out. And I still go out, just not as often as I used to. I've definitely sheltered myself a lot more over the last few years. And, you know, obviously, again, with COVID as well, I think that was a big catalyst to my fear of going out. But really it was the Meniere's disease and the vertigo attack. And I believe that I have a form of agoraphobia where it's like, I'm not scared to leave the house. I'm scared that I'm going to have an attack while I'm leaving the house or out and about, which has happened. And it's a really big, scary, because it's not something that you can control. I know some of my triggers, but I don't know all of them. My attacks have been extremely sporadic and can happen at any point, time or day. It's definitely gotten better in the last year. Like in the last year, I've had the best year ever since having Meniere's disease. Like, I've had the most minimal symptoms, and I think it's because I'm so on top of my medication that I'm on. I also actually think it's not going out as much, because that lessens my fear, and that lessens my anxiety, and it lessens my stress, and they can be triggers for me. So I think that's definitely a part of it, as to why I had such a good year last year. But I definitely think I have a form of agoraphobia, but I don't think it's the full, you know, extent of, like, I can't leave the house ever again. It's, you know, I want to leave the house, but I'm scared to because of a potential vertigo attack. And like I said, again, it's quite different because it's not something I can control. I think that's where a lot of the anxiety comes from, is the sense of not having that control. And it's literally something I can't control. How many times can I say control in this video? Moving on to, like, public vertigo attacks. Now, I've had, let me actually think how many I've had. I've probably all up had maybe 5 vertigo attacks, or yeah, maybe 6 or 7 vertigo attacks throughout my whole 5 or now 6 years of having Meniere's disease. And my first vertigo attack ever was while I was out. I was on my own. I was shopping at Big W. It was a piercing down rain. This is like middle of winter for us, and I was bending down picking up a pair of shoes, and I just suddenly and you know, I'd never experienced vertigo before up until this point. I used to have, like, lightheadedness, you know, with my voice. If I projected it too much, I would get lightheaded, but I never experienced vertigo, so I didn't know what was happening. I thought that I was gonna die. Like, it truly just... So I managed to stumble out of the shopping centre onto the bus. Thankfully, you know, back then I lived like 2 minutes from the train station. The bus trip from the shopping centre was like 3 minutes, so it wasn't like a huge trip home, thankfully, but I remember just getting on the bus and just struggling, like my eyes were just shaking, my head was just the buzzing kind of feeling. If you've had vertigo, you know what I think you know what I'm trying to say, like it's that real like buzzing, uncomfortable sensation. I managed to stumble home and I just laid in bed. I didn't know what was happening. I think because that was my first experience, that's kind of the trigger. You know what I mean? Like that's the trauma-related response of every time I go out, I think that that's going to happen again. Going into the next topic I want to speak about, which is EMDR therapy. Now, I've spoken extensively in my recent videos of doing EMDR therapy and working on different sections of like healing and, you know, basically like repatching my foundation. This is definitely one of them. Healing the trauma and the feelings associated with public outings because of vertigo. Now again, it's not something I can control, but I'm hoping that with time and with proper healing, like processing of healing the trauma, and also taking steps like getting, you know, emergency medication while I'm out, being able to control that sense of it, of, you know, even when I do, I can't control it, but even when I do, I have backup, and also my emotional reaction hopefully won't be as severe. But yeah, I'm really excited, also nervous to do EMDR therapy, but this year my goal is to get back on transport again. That is a goal, and if I reach that or not, I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself at the moment. It's really just how I feel on the day. You know, I want to take this slow, and I want to take this, you know, as safely as possible, that I can make it anyway. But yeah, living with the fear of sudden attacks is really, really, really hard. For me, it's lost my sense of self. It's lost even more of my independence, and I'm legally blind, I can't drive already. So that was already taken away from me, and now this disease has stripped even more of that. And it's really, really hard to, you know, maintain healthy friendships, and, you know, I'm lucky with the internet, but I'm always going to miss that face-to-face, especially this year is something I'm going to work really, really hard on. But I also don't want to put too much pressure on myself. I definitely think it helps to be on the right medication that works for you, because everybody works differently, the right dosage, you know, you're eating healthy, you're drinking lots of water, you're doing everything that you physically can, that you within your control to control it, even though you still can't. But as long as you're doing as much as you can, and, you know, working with your ENT specialist and stuff like that, and also in my case working with my EMDR therapist and just therapy in general, I really, really hope that this year will be the year that I get my spark back. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below any experiences that you have, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.